हेलो फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम टू सिक्योरिटी विजन चैनल। सर्टिफाइड इंफॉर्मेशन सिस्टम सिक्योरिटी प्रोफेशनल CISSP में आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। हमारा डोमेन चल रहा है सिक्योरिटी एंड रिस्क मैनेजमेंट एंड आज हम इस डोमेन को कंप्लीट कर देंगे। प्लीज प्लीज बेयर विथ मी। थोड़ा सा वीडियो बड़ा हो सकता है लेकिन यस, एक एक कॉन्सेप्ट आपके क्लियर हो जाएंगे। अगर इस वीडियो के थ्रू आपके सारे कॉन्सेप्ट क्लियर हो जाते हैं तो इससे बड़ी बात क्या हो सकती है, राइट? सो दोस्तों, मेरा नाम अभिषेक स्वामी है, जैसा आप जानते हैं, और सिक्योरिटी विजन में आपका स्वागत है। दोस्तों, आज हम कवर करने वाले हैं बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक। हम यहां पर बात करने वाले हैं सबसे पहले आइडेंटिफायर एनालाइज एंड प्रायोरिटाइज बिजनेस कंटिन्यूटी BC रिक्वायरमेंट। उसके बाद हम देखेंगे कंट्रीब्यूट to enforce personal security policies and procedure and understand and apply risk management concept, which is going to be very important. Risk management is going to be very important. So please bear with me और चलिए हम टॉपिक को शुरू करते हैं। ये तीनों टॉपिक मैं आपको कवर करने वाला हूं। प्लीज डिटेल से समझिए और आपको वीडियो अगर पसंद आता है तो प्लीज प्लीज लाइक करिए, कमेंट्स करिए। कुछ अगर आपका क्वेश्चंस रहता है, कुछ आपको डाउट रहता है तो प्लीज कमेंट्स में डालिए एंड डेफिनेटली आई विल रिस्पॉन्ड यू बैक देन एंड देयर। ग्रेट। सो चलिए, CISSP में रिस्क मैनेजमेंट की जर्नी में हम लास्ट टॉपिक, जो 3 टॉपिक्स हमारे हैं, इनकी शुरुआत करते हैं। सबसे पहले हम बात करते हैं नीड ऑफ बिजनेस कंटिन्यूटी प्लान की। सो आप इससे क्या समझते हैं दोस्तों? नीड ऑफ बिजनेस कंटिन्यूटी प्लान की हम जब बात करते हैं तो वी आर फर्स्ट टॉकिंग अबाउट ह्यूमन। So the human security is first and before or during after the disaster. Okay, so यहाँ पर सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट क्या हो जाएगा हमारा? ह्यूमन फर्स्ट हो जाएगा एंड देन आफ्टर बिजनेस कंटिन्यूटी प्लानिंग। का मतलब ही क्या होता है? इसका मतलब ये होता है कि एनीथिंग द फोकस एरिया ऑफ द बिजनेस कंटिन्यूटी प्लानिंग जो यहां पर दिया है, प्रोटेक्ट लाइव्स जो सबसे पहले आता है, मिनिमाइज द डिस्ट्रप्शन, कोशिश रहेगी हमारी, और रिस्टोर नॉर्मल बिजनेस एंड देन प्रिवेंट फाइनेंशियल लॉसेस। ओके, सो जो डिजास्टर की हम बात करते हैं, बिफोर एंड ड्यूरिंग बिफोर ड्यूरिंग एंड आफ्टर डिजास्टर, ये 3 चीजें रहती हैं। हमारा बिजनेस किसी भी कंडीशंस में चलना चाहिए, बिफोर डिजास्टर, ड्यूरिंग डिजास्टर एंड आफ्टर डिजास्टर इट शुड बी वर्किंग, राइट? सो आप इसको डिटेल में आप समझेंगे। इसको मैं नेक्स्ट स्लाइड पे जाता हूं। यहां पर आप देख सकते हैं कि बेसिक कॉन्सेप्ट डिस्ट्रप्शन इवेंट्स की हम जब बात करते हैं तो कोई इवेंट है हमारा, यहाँ देख सकते हैं कि नेचुरल डिजास्टर हो रहा है या फिर ह्यूमन इंटरवेंशन हो रहा है, फायर हो गया है या एनीथिंग, अर्थक्वेक आ गया है, या फिर कुछ एनवायरमेंटल चेंजेस आ गए हैं, अपना डेटा सेंटर इटसेल्फ इज यू नो केबलिंग से रिलेटेड या फिर साइट से रिलेटेड, बिजनेस बिल्डिंग से रिलेटेड, it could happen anything, right? So few types of disruption events are there which is mentioned here. Disruption events can be intentionally और unintentionally, जैसे कि आप समझ सकते हैं बहुत अच्छे से। डिटेल में समझते हैं इसको। जैसा मैंने आपको बताया, बेसिक कॉन्सेप्ट इसका क्या हो जाएगा कि द गोल ऑफ द BCP इज टू इंश्योर business continuity before, during and after the disaster strikes. Okay, so before, during and after आपकी सर्विसेज एंड फंक्शंस के रिलेटेड हम बात कर रहे हैं। इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ बिजनेस कंटिन्यूटी प्लान। सो यहां पर आप क्या देखते हैं? अब यू कैन सी दैट द क्राइसिस डिस्कवरी चेंजेस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन डेटा से रिलेटेड है, राइट? आपको जहां पर मेरे को लगता है कि समझाने की ज्यादा जरूरत है, आई विल डेफिनेटली स्टॉप देयर एंड ट्राई टू एक्सप्लेन यू मोर एंड मोर डिटेल्स. Business continuity planning phase, you have very much understood that the project initiation and scoping, what would be the scope of the project, how the business continuity plan will work, what would be the strategy, what would be the policies, how we are going to think about it, what would be the business impact analysis, if the situation of the disaster, the prevent control identification, how we will figure it out, which prevention control would be highly appreciated. So the one which we need to identify, recovery strategy, what would be a recovery strategy, and then planning, designing, and then finally we have to implement testing and training. So it could be BCP or DRP maintenance, right? So NIST, what it says, 834 for achieving comprehensive VCP and DRP, जो NIST standard है, that basically talk about how to achieve the comprehensive business continuity plan and disaster recovery plan. Okay, now here you can see that the BCP and DRP phase, project initiative and scoping. where which is basically mentioned about the recent trend which makes cybersecurity more important, right? So you can pause the video and just walk through the slide. My intention is to for you guys to crack the CISSP and understand the concept. So wherever is needed, the more focus, I will stop there and try to explain you. BCP or DRP phase 2, where you have the BIA, business impact analysis. What would be the impact of the business in case anything goes wrong? And if there is a disaster, so what would be the impact? So if you have the impact, you know that impact is done. So BIA business impact analysis is done based on BCP. Okay, BCP, like which application need DR, which application doesn't need the BR, right? There are many of the application which do not need the DR, right? So the one which is very, very critical, you definitely go for the DR process. Okay, great. Uh, what would be the BI goal when we're talking about BI goal, right? So BI, as I said, comes after business continuity plan. So BI की जब बात करते हैं तो how the disruption will impact the business. Okay, if you have any kind of disruption, like as I said, that earthquake or anything, fire and all, so how this disruption will impact the business? Okay, that is all about criticality. Would be your prioritizations, downtime estimate. You have to do that. Resource requirement. How many resources you require, right? So these all things come. So you need to identify and prioritize every critical business unit process. Okay, evaluate the impact of the disruption event, as I said. Downtime की हम जब बात करते हैं तो estimate maximum tolerance, MTD. बहुत अच्छे से समझाऊंगा आपको कि MTD क्या होता है using BIU, right? So the downtime require the business to remain visible. It should be visible, right? Etc. Resources, how many resources we require? Most resources basically, it's done or allocated to time sensitive process as compared to the less critical process, right? So ये parts रहते हैं. Now this one, the maximum downtime you will understand. I will definitely explain to you where you will easily understand MTD. Okay, so MTD को मैं आपको explain करता हूँ ये exactly होता क्या. So before understanding MTD, let's understand BI steps. Okay, so BCP, first we're talking about BCP. So keeping business operation running in other location. Okay, it could be any location, right? So you need to keep in mind that business operation should be running. Okay, when we're talking about DR, so what do you understand by CP, BCP and DR? So you understand BCP, when we create a plan, so you have to ensure that my business should be running, it should be operable, it irrespective of a different location or the multiple location, but it should be keep running. When we're talking about DRP, disaster recovery plan, so concern with restoring after disaster take place, after disruption take place. So it requires basically technical side of business, right? Like for example, database backup or any other restorations you needed. So DR, it's a part of your BCP, just keep in mind. Okay, now before understanding this one, MTD, as I said, that understand one more very, very important thing, which is not given in the slide, but I will just try to explain you and just you try to understand. Okay, uh, maximum tolerance time without business running. What would be your maximum time tolerance time without business running? Okay, so for example, there are three things you understand. The first is you understand determine the requirement, maximum tolerance, and then downtime MTD. Okay, so how you will understand? Let me put it in this way. So I will give you one example which will make your life very, very easy. Okay, I do not have any notepad here, so I'll just try to explain it to you here only. I'll take one pen here. Okay, I have just taken one pen here. Now I'll explain you. So here you see that. Okay, here you see that. Um, let me take this one. It's 8 a.m. Okay, you understand it's 8 a.m. Okay, this is your 12 p.m. afternoon. Okay, this is your 9 a.m. This is your 9:15. Okay, and so on. And this is your 9:45. 45. And then after you have 10. Okay, I think you can understand, right? So this 8 a.m. Okay, now let's understand what I'm just trying to explain you. Your first backup is done at 8 a.m. First backup is done at 8 a.m. Okay. Now second backup will take place at 12 p.m. Okay, in the afternoon. So morning में एक हो गया and then after you have a 12. But ये तो हो गया फर्स्ट आपका 8 का. अंडरस्टैंड ना कि मॉर्निंग में एक हो गया. नाउ 9 o'clock अर्ली मॉर्निंग 9 o'clock योर बिजनेस विल स्टार्ट. योर बिजनेस विल स्टार्ट 9 o'clock. ओके, एंड 9:15 को क्या हो जाता है? 9:15 डिजास्टर विल टेक प्लेस. डिजास्टर हो जाता है 9 o'clock 9:15 पे. ओके, एंड 9:45 पे योर सिस्टम गॉट बैकअप. योर सिस्टम गॉट बैकअप मतलब you have backed up. Okay, you backed up, you have restored it. Now 10 o'clock पे everything is fine. Now everything is like hunky dory. Okay, all good, all good, perfect. Okay, I just understand the concept. Okay, because I'm not able to, I'm just trying to do it from mouse. Okay, so now in this condition, okay, in this condition, the first point which you need to understand. Okay, this is your backup and this is your disaster is taking place. Disaster will taking place. कितने कितने टाइम का डिफरेंस है? 15 मिनट्स का. 15 मिनट्स का. Your business is already started. You started sending the data, but at 9:15 you won't be able to send the data because disaster take place. Okay. When disaster will take place, now what's gonna happen? What would be your recovery time here? Recovery time. What do you understand by this 9 o'clock and 9:15? Okay, because you have sending the data, but it's middle of something and just you got the DR, disaster happened. Okay, everything is going down now. Everything is going down now. So this gap, this one is basically called your RPO. RPO means recovery. This is called RPO. This is recovery plan object. Recovery plan object, because your you have this much of time. Okay, this much of time where recovery will take place. Recovery will take place. So this is called recovery plan object. And now after that, you see that amount of time business given to the recovery system. The amount of time business has given to recovery the system is this one, middle one, right? So this one will become your recovery time object, RTO. RTO. Just remember this, okay? RTO. Now after that, so I explain you RPO. What this is the first one, right? RPO. RPO is, which we understand, that how much time took data in terms of time. How much time took data in terms of time. So it's 15 minutes, which is RPO, and we have understood RT also. So RT is what amount of time business has given us to recover the system. Okay. Now you can see that 9:45 to 10 o'clock, where you are recovery, your recovery is done. So you have asked business unit, business community to check from your end that everything is working fine. You have also done kind of sanities where everything is working fine, and you have ensured that everything is working absolutely fine. Everything is working absolutely fine. So this is called, this one called WRT. Okay, this is called your WLT, means work recovery time. You must be thinking that what about this 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock, because my business started at 9 o'clock and everything is fine at 10 o'clock. So when you talk is in that sense, so that is your, we are overall talking about your potential, uh, you know, disaster recovery, that is potential data breach. That is your potential data breach. But we are understanding the verdicts. Please understand what is RPO. Okay, so when if your RPO is zero, then no data loss, right? If you say my RPO is zero, then of course no data loss. So you understand that perspective. Okay, so this is how it actually works. Now, when we're talking about maximum time tolerance, this one you can see that MTD. Now you will understand maximum tolerance time without business running. Okay, maximum tolerance time without business running, meaning when you say this, what does it mean by this? Your RTO, this one, your RTO plus your WRT, both you have understood, right, is equal to MTD, is equal to MTD. Okay, so RTO आपके क्या हो गया, where your business unit has confirmed that everything is working fine, you have ensured that everything is working fine, as a sanity maker and checker, everything is working fine. And WRT, which we have understand, the work recovery time, how much time it took, is equal to MTD, maximum tolerance downtime. It's called maximum period for which the organization's key process and functions are unavailable. यहाँ तक nothing will be unavailable, and then after everything is working fine. After which the organization would suffer significant losses. That means once when we talking about MTD, so till your WRT, everything is okay, right? It's under control. Everything is under control. Even you had a disaster and you, work on it and fix it. But after that, if it is taking time, it's taking too long. That is your MTD, maximum tolerance downtime. After which, the organization would suffer significant loss. Significant loss. Okay, perfect. Shall we move to the next slide? Great. Okay, now let's understand this. So what do we understand by this maximum tolerance time? I think we have understood that we have covered this, right? You can see that RPO and RTO. You can pause the video and you just walk through it. You will easily understand. Okay, great. Failure and recovery matrix when we're talking about. So what do we understand by this? You understand this concept easily. Recovery plan object means average time between, the time failure where the MTD is 30 minutes, and if it is taking more than time, so it's just giving out the mean time between failure, and then down is mean time to repair, and the third one is minimum operating, requirement. What, so the second one is mean time to repair means business recover easy or before, how tough it is going. Okay, it's all just about it. And then work recovery time, as I said, WRT we understand, RTOs we have understood, RPO we have understood, right? So this is just about it, that we have understood the concept, what it is, it's all about. Great. Now, friends, very, very important personal security policies we are going to understand. Okay, let's start this. Best work practices. Okay, so best work practices. The first is your separation of duty. So what do you understand by separation of duty, friends? Splitting various functions to avoid conflict task. No change to forward. Okay, so you have decided, you have given the duty of each and everyone, you have given the separate task to avoid any kind of conflict of the task. The agenda to doing this separation of duty is to make sure there's no changes or there's no confidentialities leak, there's no integrity happen. Okay, so the separation of duty means splitting the various functions to avoid conflicting of task, to ensure there's no changes in the data without any, if you are without as a unauthorized user. So you have specific role and you focus on that area, and you are owner to do the certain changes and that area, right? Rather than taking the ownership of the other area and making the changes, so that will not be acceptable. So this is the best practice. And then after job rotations, so when we're talking about job rotational means somewhere we are talking about person dependency. If someone is not available, right, how you will do the job? Okay, so if you are doing morning shift, right, so make sure someone will also do the morning shift, and your shift will also be changed. You can take it in that way, or you can take in that way that the work which you are doing, that will also be rotational. So in case you are aware of this particular uh, the duties, okay, you are expert in that. But if you are expert in other duty also, you can perform the similar activities which someone has done it, and now you are the owner of that second job also, so you can follow that. So that's the job rotations, right? Person dependency we are talking about if someone is not available. So make sure you have the job rotational. Okay, continuously check with the person that if he is not available, someone can do his duty also. Mandatory vacations, to ensure that we provide the mandatory vacation to someone else to see once he is not available how the pattern of the your data breaches, and how the activity is going on. Is it going good? Because it happens that in particular organization, if you have a department A, in a department you have multiple people, let's say 10 people. If one person is on mandatory vacation, okay, and you will see the significant changes in the data and the pattern, and the changes in the policy, and the changes in the change management. So this is kind of evaluation. So mandatory vacations we talk about. Then splitting the knowledge, okay, we checking how much knowledge do you have, how much knowledge you don't have, etc. And then the dual control is more than one person needed for similar activities. We require multiple people for the similar activities. That's all about the best practices. Okay, next, managing personal security hiring practice. Okay, so in that day, how to ensure you hire right person. Okay, ensure that you have the JD which you have given should be very clear, and the one which you have given, the person will be hired, he'll be working the same kind of job. The background process has to be in taken place. Okay, uh, screening out individual, the past action, you have to check how is the criminal activities, how he behaved. Okay, to avoid potential risk. This is all about the potential risk. We personal level, we check each and every part of the employees to ensure that he is up to the mark and he's ready to work for the organization, where without free. Though we follow that trust and verify. So we trust the employee, but still we verify. So this part which we are talking about is the verification, right? Next is managing personal security employees termination. So okay, make sure once you terminate the employees, all the access should be taken away immediately. Disable the access. He needs to submit his access card, laptops, or whatever necessary assets he has. Okay, so that's something we need to involve. Escort from premises. Someone has to escort from the premises. Restriction of access immediately from, as I said that. Okay, changes of the password, system password in users area, etc. Everything you need to take care of that. And then after we talk about vendor, contractors, and consultant. Okay, so this is third party. It's all about. So if you see that. um, whose software we are using. Say for example, you have XYZ vendor, let's say ForcePoint, Symantec, or any other. It could be any third party, right? So what software we are using, whose software we are using, who's going to own it, how we are going to work on it, right? Let's say once the software is deployed, once you have done the POC, you purchase the software, and you have that particular countermeasure, and you working on that. So how do you ensure that what is their responsibility, what is our responsibility, how much access they need in your environment to build the software, installation the software, or kind of any troubleshooting technical part is required, so definitely they will be supporting you as a remote access and all. They will be asking you for certain data and all. So make sure that vendor contract and consultant control how you are taking in that way. So many part is given here, you can just walk through. The one which I wanted to explain you, I think that give us the clear indicator. Next, we talk about policy, the compliance policy requirement. So compliance policy requirement, what do we understand by this? Okay, so we understand in that term, if you see that here, the training, they must be aware about, the desktop, how to use the desktop, to do the laptop, how do you ensure that the laptop is used when you are not working on it. Okay, the proper training should be provided to employees to ensure that they are aware of their compliance responsibility. Then the training should be tailored, okay, for specific employees in their specific area with the high risk area, educate them. uh, Audit are performed to ensure the compliance to contract regulation and laws, and assist in detecting abnormal activities. Very very important. So this is all about the awareness training part, where you have to ensure that compliance policy requirement meet. Perfect. Now acceptable uses, okay, or we also call it AUP. Okay, AUP. So what do we understand by AUP? Okay, what do we understand by AUP? We understand by AUP like if you have to raise a concern, for example, what should be acceptable using the policy content, introducing a malicious program, okay, disclosing confidential data, sharing password, unauthorized exit, sending unsolicited emails, etc., unauthorized representation, etc. So, what should an acceptable level, what would be the acceptable users policy means? um, let's say in cloud 2007, okay, um, regulatory raised the concern. They raised the concern that in 2007, somewhere around 2007 or 2008, or it happens in many where also. So one of the regulatory compliance, they raise the concern that how do you ensure your service is not misused? How do you ensure that? And if this is happening, so what actually happened? Once they sign, when organizations sign the cloud service agreement, okay, they sign it like they follow the non-disclosure agreement, etc. And what to do and what not to do, and what to use and what not to use, these all things acceptable, you have to accept and you need to sign the non-disclosure agreement, right? So this is how it actually works. So uh, when you have disclosure, how much risk you can accept, what about the sharing password, if someone shared the password, so how you gonna accept it? So that's all about, it's all about given here. Okay, that's it, you need to understand. Perfect. Okay, now friends, very very important, and you love it, risk management concept. Okay, risk management concept. So let's quickly start. Okay, so what do we understand about the risk management? I'm gonna spend much time in this slide because this is very very important. Okay, before I start, dosto, before I start, if you have a pen and paper, just write it down a few of the points which is very very important from the exam perspective. What is value of your customer data? What is the value of your customer data? You have customer data in any organization, you understand, right? So what is the value of your customer data? The business which you are running, what is the value of that business? Business generates some data, and that data speaks, right? That data speaks. So what is the value of your customer data? Many organization has no idea, most of the organization has no idea about their data value, their cost, etc., how much cost is needed and all, right? So when, so in that condition, what is, they follow some hybrid approach also. What they follow, they hire third party like big four, you heard of big four, and there are many audit organization which they hire. So what they do, they understand the complete requirement. How do they do that, right? They understand, how do they understand, this is your customer data, for example, this is your customer data. Okay, so they understand that, in, say for example, you have XYZ data. In that data, how many columns are confidential, how many rows are sensitive, okay. What do you follow the regulatory compliance, is any breach happen in past, okay. Do you have existing control, okay. And how they are uh, efficiency, what is the efficiency of the risk control. So all these things they put together in one of the software, and they'll let you know the data cost, okay. They will let you know. So if you don't know the value of your risk asset, how do you do the risk analysis? How do you do the risk analysis? So the value of the asset calculation should be perfect. It should be perfect. Okay. So that is very, very important. Okay. And no one follow the risk management framework properly. Okay. No one follow the risk management properly. So before why I have explained you, now you will understand this concept. You will easily understand this concept. Now the first is your asset. Okay. So what do you understand by the asset? Asset, you understand what I'm telling you, just understand, then read the slide later. People, process, information, technology, any resources, okay, and it could be anything which you want to protect, okay, to any kind of, to avoid any kind of risk, okay. So to protect your assets for any abnormality of the net from the negative impact, the right word, negative impact. So your asset, you understood, right? It could be your machines, your process, your information, your technologies, okay. All this thing is a part of your asset. Perfect. Now, as I given the example just now, you correlate every part of the security definition, and you will easily understand. Now, what is threat? When we're talking about the threat, you can see that this is the threat. So threat is, it's a potential danger. It's a potential risk. Okay, potential risk. So any threat will take advantage of the vulnerabilities, right? So your threat could be anything which is potential harm. Potential harm could be potential harm, and that will impact the loss. So that is the risk, and that is threat, and threat agent is also the same, okay. Now next is your, let's understand vulnerabilities. So you can easily correlate. What do you understand about vulnerability? Vulnerabilities means weakness. Weakness in your system. It could be anything which is weak. Your legacy, your old softwares, your coding related stuffs, and all your old applications you are using. So legacy platform you have any kind of loopholes. Your machine is not up to date, etc., etc. So this is your vulnerability. Now you can correlate risk. So when we talk about risk, so what do we understand by risk? When threat, threat take the advantage of the vulnerabilities. When threat will take the advantage of vulnerabilities, like, oh, there's a vulnerability, there's a loopholes, let's attack. Let's attack. And how it's gonna attack? Because of these vulnerabilities, you have some loopholes, so the connection is established, okay, and it will do that. So that when some losses happen, you have vulnerabilities, I understand, you have threat, I understand, but when they work together both, this is the risk, okay. So this is loss, this is kind of my loss, okay. So so that's absolutely my loss. Now next is your countermeasure and safeguard. So what do we understand? So risk one you have understood, right? Result in loss called risk, okay. Now what is your countermeasure? Countermeasure, the control which you have is a complete gateway to avoid the risk. Okay, so the countermeasure which you take in place, that countermeasure or the safeguard which is put in place to mitigate the potential risk. Okay, that is what about it. Now the exposure. Exposure you need to understand, which I'm going to explain you. So it is not exposure. This is called exposure factors. It works in the percentage way. Okay, it works in the percentage way. So what do you understand by exposure factor? Now, if you don't know the value of your asset, how do you gonna do the risk analysis? Okay, so you gonna do the risk analysis like the amount of weakness in terms of percentage, the amount of weakness, the amount of weakness, the particular amount of weakness in terms of percentage in your system called exposure. Amount of weakness in percentage, it works in the percentage. How much? How much weakness I have? How much I can afford? I will give you one solid example where this will clear your doubt. This will clear your doubt. Okay, and you need to give me thumbs up in the comments if you really like that. Perfect. Now let me give you an example. I don't have the space, sufficient space here, but I can just try to explain you, and you will understand. I'm not going to write so many things, so you can easily understand. So this is my house made of wood प्लस कंक्रीट सीमेंट का. तो 40% ये क्या हो गया मेरा, 40% जो हो गया वो वुड हो गया, एंड 60% जो हो गया मेरा सीमेंट हो गया, कंक्रीट हो गया. ये हाउस कहाँ पर है मेरा, जंगल में है. जंगल, understand please, or you can write it down. So first one is your house which is made of wood and concrete. सेकेंड वन इज द परसेंटेज, वुड इज, लकड़ी का घर 40% का है और बाकी 60% उसमें कंक्रीट मिली हुई है. ठीक है. और घर की जो वैल्यू है मेरी, द वैल्यू ऑफ दिस हाउस इज, सपोज लेट्स से यू हैव $10,000. ओके, $10,000 it's a cost. And then house is in jungle which we have covered. Okay, so house is covered. Now if this concept is clear, can you please tell me, let me know what would be the asset? What would be my asset here? My asset is my house, number one. What would be the vulnerabilities? What would be the vulnerabilities? Your wood, लकड़ी, लकड़ी is my weakness है, vulnerabilities होगी. Okay, so अगर मैं आपको ऐसा समझाऊं, ये समझने से पहले अगर ना आए, सपोज जंगल में suppose let me say that there is a fire, you want to be fire in the jungle, and your house is not safe. So your asset is your house, vulnerabilities is your wood. Okay, what would be the threat here? What would be the threat? What would be, of course, fire, right? Fire. And what would be the exposure factor here? What would be the exposure factor here? This 40%. 40% is my exposure factor. What is the risk here? Now what is the risk here? Risk is if your house is burned from this fire. Okay, so this is your threat. Okay, this is your threat. What is your vulnerabilities? Are you correlating it? Okay, and what is the countermeasure then you have? You can put the countermeasure anything like build a concrete house, evacuate that house from the jungle, or use the water equipment to remove the fire and all, so and so on. So I hope this concept is clear. So you can easily correlate the previous slide with this factor, right? Great. Uh, Risk goal, I think I'll cover that in the upcoming slide, because the first you need to understand the risk management concept. Okay, and then you have a risk analysis. Risk analysis. Okay, so let me cover it. So when you do the risk analysis, okay, the one which I have explained, you just keep it in mind, and then I'll explain you. Risk analysis, what do we understand, that how do we do the risk analysis, that you have the information security officer, your risk manager is involved, and exclusive sponsors, and you have a team. So this is just a paperwork, but risk analysis could be anything, your owner also, or could be anyone else, right? So you can easily understand this part. uh, Let me go to the next slide. Okay, so we'll understand the very important. So the risk one which I'm talking about, right? Um, it's all about the complete analysis. So how you do the analysis? You have the risk team, but how you do the analysis? Remember one thing which I forgot to. Uh, you only do the risk analysis. You will give the result with the analysis, that this is the risk, and this is the percentage of the cost of that asset value, and this is total the risk. But you are not going to handle the risk. The senior management will take a decision to handle the risk. Okay, whether they need to accept it, mitigate, transport, and also you will understand in upcoming slide. One thing I just wanted to explain you, so the part would be very much clear. Okay, so as I said, that risk is equal to you understand threat into vulnerability. This one we have understand. If you have a threat, corresponding you have vulnerabilities, then is equal to risk. So this is what is this part, X part. It is not a cross actually. This is something when we're talking about risk. So it is like this. X is equal to this is risk function based on your threat and vulnerability. This is the concept. This is a factor. Okay, so it's a function of threat and vulnerability. Just remember this. Okay, so so if you need to reduce of risk, uh, what I what I need to reduce first, you need to know. So both are the ideal situation you need to know. The ideal situation, like when you require a threat, when the calculation of threat and calculation of vulnerabilities. For example, the vulnerabilities, you have some vulnerabilities, right? Now you have some vulnerabilities. That doesn't mean that you evaluate the threats. You don't have a threat, so it will become a risk. You have vulnerability, it's not a risk, right? But you have to evaluate the corresponding threats as well to find out it. Now my control, so if I need to reduce the risk, I need to reduce vulnerabilities also. I need to reduce the vulnerability. This is something in my control by identify the risk which may cause harm, or bringing the risk to an extent the become acceptable to me. Okay, so you have some control. That is something, the vulnerability is in your control, which you can easily achieve it. Okay, so that's something I wanted to explain you, which is very, very important. Now, how you gonna do that? This risk, how you gonna do that? So primarily exercise of the upper management, as I said, to initiate and support something like that. And there's no way to always remember. There's no way to, if I let me go to the next slide, you will understand quantitative and qualitative risk. Okay, so this part will, here I will explain you. Okay, so there's no way to 100% eliminate the risk. That is why we use our mitigation, no remediation. Okay, remediation is means uprooting, which is somewhere not possible. So you always try to mitigate, not the remediate. The remediate is permanent fix, something which is generally not happen, but you can mitigate. So we do analysis using qualitative and quantitative analysis. Okay, qualitative and quantitative analysis. So before we go ahead with that concept, let's understand what is your asset exposure factor and single loss acceptancy. Okay, you need to understand this also, so you can easily correlate it. Now you had total value of asset. So it has to evaluate nicely, very nicely process, because entire calculation will go for 6 if you do not do the proper analysis of the risk, the total value. And how you're going to do the calculation analysis will, let's we understand here. So you understand the total value of the asset, what is, how much the value of the asset, and how you gonna do that value. As I said that you hire the third party like big four, which will help you to evaluate the total value of your asset, how much the cost of data you have, and etc, etc. So you will figure it out. Now the exposure factor. So what do we understand by exposure? As I said, the weakness of your system in terms of percentage, percentage in terms of percentage. You remember the wood percentage by 40%, 40%. So that is your exposure risk. Signal loss of acceptancy. Understand this very carefully. Now risk you have, how much loss I can accept, how much loss I can accept here. So you have SLA, SLE means single loss acceptancy. अगर कुछ लॉस हो जाता है, so how much I can accept, कितना मेरे लेवल पे. So क्या हो जाएगा आपका asset value into factor, this one. So ये हो जाएगा आपका asset value into factor is equal to this one, SLE. Okay, so you have understood, right? Perfect. Now when we're talking about qualitative and quantitative risk, okay, so you need to understand qualitative and quantitative risk. How we do that, qualitative and quantitative risk. So the one which I am talking about, the one which I am talking about, quantitative risk. So what do we understand by quantitative risk? We are somewhere talking about the mathematical analysis. your the calculation which I just said, SLE, and the one which I am going to explain it to you. Okay, the one which I am going to explain to you, that is based on your uh, quantitative. So quantitative, where you require the complete analysis by the doing the calculation and all, so you will understand. Now keep in mind the one which I have explained you, and the one which I am going to explain you, understand this also. Now you understand this ARO. What is ARO? So what do you understand by ARO? I will explain you. So I was talking about quantitative risk. Don't get confused, okay? Understand the wording. Quantitative risk, the one which I'm explaining you, the complete calculation which I'm explaining you, the value of the data. It's like you have $100 of value. So each risk has some value. Okay, each risk has some value, and we need to do the analysis, the risk, and uh, we need to figure it out that the total number of risk which we have, and give the result to the management, because we are not going to handle the risk, management will going to handle the risk. And qualitative risk which we're talking about is just guessing, expert advice that will higher to lower level. That's it, right? So that's something you have understood, right? Now let me talk about this part. We are reading this, the previous slide, and this part also under quantitative risk only, right? So in the quantitative risk, let's understand this. So the first one will understand ARO. So what do you understand by ARO? Annual rate of occurrence. Like how many times fire happened in your society once in a year. Suppose it happens once in a year. So once in a year means your ARO would be one. Once in a year, it's one, right? And if it is happening, let's say twice a week. So twice a week means how many weeks you have? So you have total 52 weeks. Twice, so into 2 is equal to 104. So 104 is your ARO. Are you following me? Right? It's very easy calculation, right? Now, what do you understand by ALE? So ALE is nothing but you can understand, um, annualized loss acceptancy, annualized loss. So possible yearly cost kitna hoga, which I can expect. Okay. Let's say fire take place once in 10 year. Okay. So once in 10 years. So once in 10 year, कितना हो जाएगा? 1/10 हाफ हो जाएगा, राइट? 1/10 हो जाएगा. So ALE is equal to ALE, your SLE is, let's say, 104. 104 is your SLE. Fire, it's happening twice in a week. So twice in a week is equal to 52 weeks, and ये total कितना हो जाता है? Into 2 किया तो 104. So 104 your SLE into ARO. ARO का कैलकुलेशन हमने यहाँ पर निकाला. Okay, sorry, this is 104 is your ARO into what is your SLE. So just a फायर वाला एग्जांपल दिया. So SLE is your suppose 40. सो जो कैलकुलेट करने के बाद रिजल्ट आएगा, दैट इज योर ए एल ई ओके, ए एल ई. एंड द लास्ट वन इज ACS, annual cost of safeguard. So what do we understand by this? Like you have a insurance cost. I will not give uh, let's say $10 to save. I will not give the the $10 to save $5. It's a stupid, right? You're not going to do that, right? 10 रुपए खर्च 5 रुपए बचाने के चक्कर में 10 रुपए आप खर्च नहीं करोगे. So I'll accept the risk. In that condition, let's accept the risk, because थोड़ा सा प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है यहाँ पर. So calculation में, so let's accept the risk. So for all these, you should have data. Your data should always speak. So you have that calculation, and then only you can do that. So I hope you have understood that this concept, right, under quantitative risk. So this is all about it. So quantitative risk का एक example दे सकते हो कि आपका asset value ये है. आपका you can see that the factor, how much you can see that here. What do you see that FE is 50% and ARO is your 10%. Okay. So your total exposure factor is 50%, ARO is 10% of the fire, as I said that, and then you have this calculation of SLE and ALE. Perfect, great. Now, quantitative risk analysis. When we're talking quantitative risk analysis, okay. So, quantitative risk analysis, somewhere we are talking about like this Delphi. So we are talking about, let's take the people advice. Let's discuss that. Let's give them the scenario and then take their advice. How much risk? This is based on, as I said, that this is completely based on expert advice, guessing, and the complete knowledge. Hiring someone and take their opinion, what it could be, and based on that, you can do the analysis. So del P is then you can do the brainstorming, conduct the meeting with a couple of people and do that storyboardery. You can create some scenario, focus, survey, send email to some of the user that what is the advantage of this, what is the disadvantage of that, questionnaires. You can set the questionnaires and send it to everyone, which they will fill, and you will get some percentage about the risk. If you do that, this you have 60% of risk or 70% of risk, so you will get some idea. Then you have certain checklist of the risk analysis. You send it and you will get one-on-one meeting. You can take a one-on-one meeting if you feel that someone has a good idea about that. You can take a one-on-one meeting for this risk analysis. You can do the interviews also to hire someone and take their advice if they are good in that area, and you can take that. Okay. Uh, so after quantitative and qualitative risk, basically quantitative is happen very rarely in the organizations, right? Because it's based on the calculation. Qualitative, it happens most oftenly, and most of the time, hybrid approach happens all the time. The calculation of quantitative plus qualitative is the hybrid risk analysis. Okay, so that is your qualitative risk analysis. So we'll talk about the hybrid. First, we'll understand, as we say, the what is the threat. It's the say for example, fire is the threat. What is the threat probability? Low. Impact is high. So you can countermeasure. What would be the countermeasure for that? Okay, you have some fire alarm and some algorithm should be there. Threat is your theft, chor hai, which is medium, but impact is high. So key guard you require, and then logical intrusion you have. So you see the threat is low and high and like that. You can understand that manner. Okay, I'll go to the next slide. This is hybrid approach I was talking about. Combination of quantitative and qualitative, right? Here you can see that. So this is the complete concept about it, where you have both the mechanism and you will understand about this, right? So hybrid approach basically both, where you can some of the points which you can follow, like it's almost impossible to carry out quantitative, as I mentioned. So qualitative analysis does not provide sufficient data to make financial decision. Qualitative does not provide, right? So इसके लिए क्या करते हैं? Quantitative evaluation is used for financial. For financial, we use this value very much, and qualitative analysis we can use it for priority values asset, where we feel that it's a risk, but it's not the highly major loss like financial. So you can do that. So we follow that hybrid approach. Okay. As I said that qualitative risk is based on it's you can see that complex calculation. So qualitative, yes, we require. In quantitative, we don't require. So just walk through the slides. Very simple. I'm not going to explain much because you can easily understand. Countermeasures selection is based on the. This is something I'll spend some time. It's very important. So you can see that you have let's say $10,000. So $10,000 is prior to implementing or suggested safeguard. So you have 10,000, the total cost of any kind of risk or any kind of threats you have. But once you implement the safeguard, somewhere you save $2,000 after control, because you purchase the control. So you save $2,000 somewhere. Now annual cost for maintaining and operating the safeguard is suppose $500. Okay, so we'll go higher the better. जो भी higher रहेगा उसमें better में जाएंगे. So यहाँ पर 10,000 माइनस किया, 2,000 माइनस किया 5,000, तो हमारे पास जो अमाउंट आता है वो 7,500 बचता है. ये हमारा टोटल value of safeguard of the company. ये value of safeguard. This is how you do the calculation, right? So you understand that way. If vendor takes $500, suppose it ज़्यादा ले रहा है, $500 ले रहा है, $100 दे रहा है. सो एज पर कैलकुलेशन मैं $100 के साथ जाऊंगा, मेरा और पैसा बचेगा, बट वो अगर $100 दे रहा है बट साथ में यू इट्स गिविंग यू सम रेगुलेटरी कंप्लायंस, लाइक से पीसीआई डीएसएस, कुछ उसमें फीचर्स हैं, इंक्रिप्शन के मैकेनिज्म है, सो अगर ऐसा कुछ फंक्शनैलिटी है विच विल हेल्प मी टू save the countermeasure and protect against the threat and vulnerabilities is equal to risk, and it's come under the acceptance somewhere. I'm in advantage level, right? So I'll accept that also. So this is how the the problem countermeasure of it, how this is how it's solved. Now handling risk, you understand very very carefully, this is very very important. Handling risk, how we gonna handle the risk? Okay, so if I'll give you one example of high level, so understand in that way. So you have let's say ऐसा कुछ बना लेते हैं, so you will understand easily. So you have high probability of risk but low impact है उसका, एक तो ये हो गया, आप अच्छे से उसको लिख लेना, ठीक है? फिर उसके बाद सेकंड आ जाता है आपका लो प्रोबेबिलिटी है बट हाई इंपैक्ट है, ठीक है? फिर उसके बाद आ जाता है, यहाँ स्पेस नहीं तो इधर कर लेता हूँ मैं, उसके बाद आ जाता है आपका हाई प्रोबेबिलिटी है एंड हाई इम्पैक्ट भी है, एंड उसके बाद लो प्रोबेबिलिटी है एंड लो इम्पैक्ट भी है. समझ लो यार, मतलब आई एम जस्ट ट्राइंग टू एक्सप्लेन यू, ओके, सो यू कैन इजिली अंडरस्टैंड. दिस साइड इज प्रोबेबिलिटी, ओके, और ये नीचे वाला जो रहेगा मेरा इम्पैक्ट है, इम्पैक्ट, ओके, अंडरस्टैंड दैट वे. नाउ ये कॉन्सेप्ट में आता हूं. इफ यू हैव हाई प्रोबेबिलिटी एंड लो इम्पैक्ट, सो यू विल मिटिगेट द रिस्क, ओके. But if you have low impact, low probability and high impact, then you always avoid the risk. Write it down. And you have, uh, mm, when we say, sorry, when you have low probability and high impact, low probability and high impact, then you will transfer the risk. Okay, transfer the risk. If you have high probability and high probability impact, you will avoid the risk. Okay, avoid the risk. And if you have low probability and low risk, you always transfer the risk. Okay, transfer the risk. Take a photo of it. Okay, and the one which I am going to explain you, this will clear about this picture very much. Okay, this will help you to clear your doubts. Okay, the first one, transfer the risk. Okay, so transfer the risk, or I say like somewhere, I am uh, passing out the risk, passing on the risk, so assigning the risk. Let's say insurance company, okay, so I have a risk, I have taken the insurance already with the company, so I am passing on, I have the insurance and I'm just transferring the risk, I'm just transferring the risk to the insurance team, that this is how it is, it's not able to mitigate it and all, and this is the risk which I have accepted, and I have already taken the insurance, and accordingly you can uh, demand for cost. Okay, you can accordingly go for that reimbursement and all. Now next is your the second one which talk about, terminate the risk. This one, terminate the risk, or it is also called avoid the risk. Avoid, okay, avoid the risk. Now क्या होता, this is very very high risk, you, because you are going to terminate the risk. Okay, so let's say you're trying to go to the cloud, for example, and you do some kind of analysis, and you find that it's a risk, it's very costly, it's very very costly. Okay, if you go in the cloud, or you buy any countermeasure, so it's very costly. And if you do the qualitative risk analysis, you do the qualitative risk analysis, you find that it is beyond your risk appetite, it's beyond your risk appetite. Like I have done the calculation and I found that risk is very very costly, it's very very costly. Okay, so in that condition, what I'm going to do that I will avoid the risk. I will keep in mind that there's some risk, what I will avoid that risk. Okay, I simply avoid this risk. I'm aware of this, that something is going to happen, okay, but it is not impacting my business also. I will avoid this risk, but I will keep in mind that if I'll go in so and so and cloud or any third party engagement anywhere, okay, to mitigate XYZ risk, which is not happening in my organization, but in case if it is happening, and if I'll go with this countermeasure, if I'll go with the third party or the cloud, and let's do the calculation, the cost wise and all. So I do the analysis and I found that that risk is very, very costly. I'll terminate the risk. I will avoid that risk. Okay. Next is take measures. Okay. Take measures is you are reducing or you are mitigating the risk. So you have decided to mitigate the risk. So how you're going to do that? Like you have the existing risk. So why preventing? By putting some control. You are putting some control. You are पैसा खर्च कर रहे हो, you are buying some countermeasure, okay, and you can do that. So for data loss prevention, DLP, you feel that it will protect my data, you will preventing data by putting some control like DLP and all, you can do that. Cloud solution, also many things. Now you have a accept the risk. So when we're talking about accept the risk, so what do we understand? As I said, that cost of safeguard is higher than the risk. Okay, means cost of the safeguard is higher than the risk or loss of accept. Risk is very, very low. Risk is very, very low within your appetite, within your risk appetite. So what you gonna do, that you will accept the risk. You will simple accept the risk. यार मेरे बजट में भी आ रहा है, okay, and but इसका जो नॉट बजट में आ रहा है, जो कॉस्ट ऑफ सेफ गार्ड है बहुत कॉस्टली है एक रिस्क बचाने के लिए. ओके, एंड दैट रिस्क एज आई सेड इज वेरी लो, बहुत लो है विद इन योर रिस्क एपिटाइट. आपके अंडर में यू कैन कंट्रोल इट. अगर आप वो परचेज भी नहीं कर सकते कॉस्ट, you will accept it, you will accept the risk. So that is called risk acceptance, risk appetite, आपने उसको accept कर लिया. So that is all. एक और आता है फिफ्थ वन, विच इज रिस्क रिजेक्शन. ओके, रिस्क रिजेक्शन. नाउ रिस्क रिजेक्शन क्या होता है? ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हैज डिनाई दैट रिस्क एग्जिस्ट, which is very, very bad habit, okay, and they feel that I should ignore it, and they generally ignore that risk. Ideally we should never ignore the risk, we should never reject the risk. Okay, so most of the organization they reject the risk doesn't exist and all, so they generally accept, but it should not be rejected. Okay, you should keep in mind that there's some risk and you should always consider that, but they simply avoided that, it's not going to happen, nothing going to happen, which is a very bad practice. So this is how it is happening. Okay. So I hope you understood. So once your risk analysis done, the entire flow comes in the picture. You start doing the risk handling and all. You doing the risk handling process and all. When we're talking about reduced risk, what do you understand by reduced risk? Okay, so you understand in this way, uh, you are taking any type of countermeasure. Okay, taken the countermeasure, but still you have a risk. You have taken the countermeasure, but you still have a risk. So accept the risk rather than mitigating it. Accepting the risk rather than mitigating it. अगर mitigate करोगे तो you need a countermeasure. So what you gonna do that? What you gonna do that? You are going to accept the risk. Okay. So you have taken the countermeasure, but still you have a risk. Even after taking the countermeasure, if you still feel that you have a risk, okay, so you generally in that condition you accept the risk, because मैंने तो सारे हथकंडे अपना लिए, I have taken the countermeasure also, I have followed every analysis also, but still I have a risk, so better I accept the risk. वो एक रिस्क पड़ा हुआ है मेरे पास, ठीक है ना, I accept the risk. So that is called resilience risk. Always remember, risk not mitigated और रेमिडिएटेड 100%, दैट्स रेजिलियंस रिस्क. तो होता क्या उसमें, if you have a risk, अगर आप accept करते हो, yes, uh, what is the acceptable level? It's okay, you can do that. So you accept the risk. If you feel no, the acceptable level is not okay, you cannot accept. If you say no, then what? If you say no, then you put some countermeasure, but risk countermeasure is higher than the asset value, and you don't want to go for it. Then you'll say no. If you are going with the countermeasure, go for it and mitigate the risk. And if you know, then you will accept the risk. So you, in what condition you are accepting the risk? First, you feel that we are not going to do that, you will accept. If your countermeasure is higher, you accept the risk. But if you feel that I can mitigate the risk, or I have some countermeasure, you go for it and you mitigate the risk. As simple as that. Okay. Now this is very, very important. Uh, Control of the countermeasures. So we have understood about the risk and all. Let's understand the countermeasure of it. Okay. So security control are basically, the measure taken to safeguard or an information system from attacks against the confidentiality, integrity and availability of the information system. So starting में आप ये जो देख रहे हो थ्री फिजिकल टेक्निकल एंड एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव कंट्रोल, ये जो होते हैं ये दिस इज द ब्रॉड कैटेगरी ऑफ द कंट्रोल. रिमेंबर, इट्स अ ब्रॉड कैटेगरी ऑफ कंट्रोल. ओके, ऑलवेज रिमेंबर. एंड बाकी के ये जो आते हैं आपके यहाँ तक जो आते हैं, डिटेंच हो गया, प्रिवेंशन हो गया, डिटेक्टिव, करेक्टिव, रिकवरी कंट्रोल एंड कंपनसेटिव कंट्रोल, ये जो होते हैं द वे वी वांट टू इम्प्लीमेंट देम बेस्ड ऑन फंक्शनैलिटी, बेस्ड ऑन द फंक्शनैलिटी. बट थ्री तो मैं करूंगा, ये बेस्ड है मेरे, और बाकी के मैं इंप्लीमेंट करूंगा बेस्ड ऑन द फंक्शनैलिटी. जैसे जैसे मेरे को आता जाएगा वैसे वैसे करते होंगे. सो इसके लिए क्या करते हैं, वी पुट वन टाइप ऑफ कंट्रोल कॉल डिफेंस इन डेप्थ. डिफेंस इन डेप्थ आपको मालूम होगा, यहाँ पर आपका एसेट है, एंड देन आफ्टर उसके बाद आपका एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव कंट्रोल है, एंड देन एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव कंट्रोल टेक्निकल कंट्रोल आएगा, टेक्निकल कंट्रोल के बाद आपको फिजिकल कंट्रोल आएगा. सो दिस इज हाउ यू डू दैट, राइट. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड में हम बहुत डिटेल में समझते हैं. सो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव कंट्रोल. सो ये जो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव कंट्रोल से आप क्या समझते हो, मतलब first is your policies, the complete, the remember which I've talked about the complete policies, procedure, guideline, baseline, top management created, right? So that's a you can say administrative control, or I must say the management control, okay, which includes complete policies, hiring process, awareness, data classification, and so many things. You can read the slide. Okay, this is how it is mean. Technical control, what do we understand? Any kind of methods related to technology, hardware, software, users, what you require, point of view. You provide some kind of protection to some resources. Okay, in order to protect your resources, you put some countermeasures, technical wise, software, hardware, whatsoever you require. Physical control, it's all about the physical control, which the directly contact of the system. Okay, like a laptop is locked, make sure your laptop is locked and you follow the complete security guard, locks, fencing, dogs, etc, etc. So that is all of the physical control, you'll understand in detail. Now you have a SCA. Okay, SCA is means what? Based on the NIST, there are NIST 853, which talks about the security guides for control. Okay, so you find out the control which are educate enough. Okay, which are educate enough. So the control which I have put it in place, are they correct? Okay, is it correct? If they ask the question, ISO 27002, which talks about the implementation of the control, is it good? The controls which you have put it good, but they are the one which you have already put it, are they secure enough? Are they effective or adequacy enough, right? So they ask this question in SAA, security control assessment. So where we doing kind of security, the assessment, which we're talking about comprehensive evaluation of assessment of the management, operation, technical security controls, and information management. So the goal to determine the extent to which the control are meeting the security requirement. Okay, perfect. Now the security control assessment, you do that kind of security assessment where you have some evidence, effectiveness of implementation control, where information about the strength and weakness of this information system, which we already talked about, right? How you'll do the assessment and all. So you go through the slide, you will easily understand. Then risk monitoring and measurement. So risk monitoring and measurement, what do we understand by this? Uh, in the previous slide, which we talking about security control and assessment, where we checking the effectiveness of the control, the your security controls are correct. If you have any the control which you have, it's absolutely correct and all. That's all it's talk about. Same thing is coming the risk monitoring and the measurement. So once this is not assessment and then countermeasures done, it's not finished yet. You need to do the continuously risk monitoring. You need to do the complete do you need to do the it's ongoing exercise to maintain at the acceptable level. Okay, keep monitoring. So today you have a lower risk, maybe tomorrow you have a higher risk. So you should be in a position to do the evaluation and all. That's all. Okay, so risk management is KRI and KPI, which I've already talked about. You create some kind of, the KPI where you see that, say, for example, the antivirus, how frequently your antivirus getting updated in your system. Okay, so what is the KI? 90%, okay, or 100%, what it is all about. So they generally talk about that only. Okay, your what is your incident management? How many incidents you are receiving per day? What is the data breach in this month? So that is all. It's come under KPI and KRA. That's something we understood. Now, continuous improvement when we're talking about, so organization cannot take risk as it is. So if they are customize the risk, so what they need to do is they need to customize the framework also and create the framework accordingly to make it mature the process. They mature the process. Okay, so any kind of framework, it's like you never see the framework is working as it is. So we will be talking about NIST, the complete framework in next slide. So you have NIST. So NIST talk about the complete framework of the security management risk governance. We are not going to follow that. So we make the easy. We'll make the framework. It's quite easy. So now you are following the standards. Okay, you are following the standard. Organization now customize that risk. Organization that customize that framework as per their choice, but they will definitely come under the compliance regulatory. That for sure. Now, this one which I was talking about, very, very important. So NIST, so risk management framework. This NIST, what it's talk about, complete framework. There are three type of frameworks in about the risk. When someone talking about the risk framework, so there are three type of risk framework. Okay, number one is NIST. So NIST is a free one. It's a free. But not globally accepted. It is not accepted by globally. So it's a free, of course. You can download it and you can follow that regulatory also NIST, which is given here, and this is US only accepted. US has accepted. US ने accept किया. But when we talk about ISO 31000, it's a globally accepted one, and it's cost basis. It's not free one. It's a globally accepted. Okay, and then ENIA. ENIA is a risk management risk assessment. Okay, this is the European acceptable. Europe नहीं accept किया है, and that's also free one and not accepted by globally. Okay, so the risk framework is basically we talked about. It is used to identify, measures, manage, and monitor, and report the significant risk to achievement of the business objective. Right. Okay, let's understand the threat modeling concept. Okay, threat modeling concept, which is very, very important. What do we understand threat modeling under? So when we talk about threat modeling is it basically to identify and it's a kind of threat which is identify, categorize, and aligned. Okay, so which can be taken now and later. So that's about the threat modeling. You need to identify, categorize, analyze about it. So say for example, security development tri cycle, which tells you about the, it can be performed as proactive measures during the planning and design phase of the SLDC, so security development life cycle. So this is threat modeling is a proactive approach to threat modeling, which takes place after a product has been created and deployed. Okay, perfect. So threat modeling, you can see that reduce the number of security related like coding and design effect, and then reducing the severity of. That's all about the goal of threat modeling, okay, which we have understood. Uh, Threat modeling, if you see that this one, I would just want to spend some time in this. Identify the threats, as I said, the identify the threats. So when you're talking about identify the threats, it's a three-way. Focus on asset, focus on attackers, and focus on software. So like you know you asset centrics, you have some approach. So you use structured approach to identify the threats. And how would be the structured approach? How you gonna follow that? That it's all talk about. Let's focus on the asset. What are the assets we have? What is the mindset of the attackers we have? And accordingly, focus on the software part. Okay, so like when we talk about micro, so you do nicely any kind of analysis when you do the risk deduction. So let's say you have a DNS, any kind of application or database, you have that. And if you want to I'm talking about software, okay, focus on the software. So if you need to deduct some softwares for the cost point of view, so that analysis you will do that, right? Cloud prospected, when we understand, when you have engagement cloud and on premises, so trust boundaries you have, trust boundaries hai. So that's something you understand in next. Then you have a strike. So what do we understand by the the strike model? I will explain a strike model. It's a very very important model which talks about multiple things. Strike. So which basically talks about how risk is identified and what are the parameters, how it actually works. Uh, that's all which we will discuss about this. Now, determining and diagramming potential attack, so which talks about data flow diagram, privilege boundaries, and elements, etc. That they talk about. Then the performing reduction analysis, as I said, that trust boundary about cloud, data flow, which we talk about. So data flow is the data or program before crossing the boundary, if there's any impact and all. And then you have prioritization, that is talk about dread models, right? So that model which we talked about. So, the focus attack, focus asset, which we already discussed. So let me tell you, focus on attack, which we just talked about. So means what attacker wants. Okay, and then we accordingly we identify the risk. Attackers का goal क्या है? What is the goal of the attacker? What they want to achieve? And accordingly, we want to identify the risk. That's something we have understood. Now focus on asset. So asset valuation result क्या है? If it is acceptable or not acceptable, that's something we need to focus on it. And same for the softwares. Okay, whether you need to buy the software, we require it or not. So that's something we have understood. Now, this one we are talking about striped, in the previous slide, striped approach. So the first one is spoofing. So what do we understand by the spoofing? मैं थोड़ा सा जल्दी जल्दी बताऊंगा because it's almost delay. So spoofing. So spoofing means I am trying to do someone which I am not. फॉल्स आइडेंटिटी, ओके, जहां पर करते हैं योर सिस्टम शुड बी नॉन रेपुटेशन. यहाँ पर नॉन रेपुटेशन का क्वेश्चन आता है बिकॉज यहाँ पर मैं अपनी आइडेंटिटी नहीं बता रहा हूँ और मैंने क्या किया वो भी नहीं बता रहा हूँ, तो स्पूफिंग हो रहा है. देन टेम्परिंग, action resulting unauthorized, something unauthorizedly happening. Then reputation, like I'm denying, attacker has denied that something he has done that, so it's a reputation concern. Then information disclosure, okay, information or external or unauthorized entities. DDoS attack, we are aware of that, flooding of system to unrespondable mode. Okay, and then evaluation, take greater privilege like root privilege and etc. That's something you have taken, and that's something we are talking about in Stripe. Perfect. I hope things are getting clear, guys. Now we talk about the prioritized response. So how you respond it, what is the risk and what is the probability and what is the the total potential damage. That's something we talk about. So we are giving kind of ranking here, 5 out of 5. So in next slide you will understand this pretty much clear. So here we are giving kind of ranking, okay, damage potential. So what is the severity of it? So let's say its severity is 3, for example. Next is R, okay, R. Uh, Reproducibility, how complex it is, uh, how complexity attackers to reproduce the exploit. So let's say इसको 2 दे देते हो. And then exploiting, uh, it's इसको बन जाएगा, it's exploiting कर रहा है. And then affected users. So how many users are likely to be affected by this attack? Very very important one. How hard for attacker to disclose this weakness? Okay, so let's say maybe कर सकता है, तो उसको 3 दे दिया. एंड नाउ आप क्या करोगे, उसको 3+2+1+2 करके उसका कैलकुलेशन करोगे एंड रिजल्ट देखोगे कितना आ रहा है, एंड देन उसके अकॉर्डिंगली यू प्रायोरिटाइज एंड रिस्पॉन्ड. राइट, आई होप दिस क्लियर. तो क्या करते हो आप यहाँ पर, जैसे मैंने आपको बताया, रैंकिंग दे देते हो. क्या रैंकिंग हो गई थी, रेटिंग क्या हाई आई है, रेटिंग क्या लो आई है, एंड अकॉर्डिंगली आप उसको डिसाइड करो. सो दैट कम अंडर ड्रेड. प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड ड्रेड हाउ इट इज, क्वेश्चन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से पूछ सकता है. सो यू हैव दैट कॉन्सेप्ट क्लियर. Now, importance of security awareness, where we will be giving the training, the security awareness, how the training should be, understand the importance of the security, where they will understand the responsibility at the acceptable behavior level, non-compliance acquisition, and then accordingly modify the employees' behavior and attitude towards security, where we will improve the overall security of the organization, implement the controls in a better way, so they will understand what we want to achieve it and all. That's the objective about it, right? That's something we want to achieve in the risk point of view. And next is the program effective. So what do we understand by the program effective? Like, you have given a kind of reaction, you see the reaction. Let's say you have given uh, what is the spam, and not spam, you sending it over the email and they will respond accordingly. So what is the reaction you are giving, and what you have learned accordingly, and what is the behavior of the user by responding it, and accordingly you'll get the result also. So means some fake or malicious mails to check whether you are aware or not. Phishing attack, you will do that, okay, and you can kind of periodically you will check it. Okay, okay, so that will give you the result about and all. So guys, what is the key takeaway from this this lesson which we have understood so far in domain 1? We have understood about the governance point. We have started that. We understood the policy guidelines. Complete risk management we have understood. Okay, risk control we have understood, and we have understand about the computer crimes and all organization ability for the disaster BCP point of view. That's something we have understood all, right? So in the next slide, we will be understanding about the asset security. That's it for the risk management. So guys, it's going to take a tough time to prepare the slides and explain to you. If you feel that, it's good, I'll always rather recommend to subscribe the channel and put more and more comments. Hit the bell icon. That will be really help me to create more and more video. So for now, thank you so much. We will be seeing in the next video, that is asset security management. Thank you so much guys for bear with me and watching this video. You have a wonderful day. Great.